The 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment participated in the American Civil War after being established on March 13, 1863. The 54th was a regiment of all African American males, including free slaves. They made a name for themselves as courageous soldiers who were well known across the nation for their valiant but unsuccessful attack on Fort Wagner. The 54th Massachusetts Infantry are widely known for their efforts in pushing for equal pay among soldiers, no matter the color of their skin. The white soldiers were given $13 for their services, while the black soldiers were only paid $10. Even their commander, Robert Goldshaw, who was white, refused to accept any payment until the blacks were paid fairly.
The men are preparing for the charge, exchanging letters with the inevitability of fatality. Private Lewis Douglas wants me to apologize to his wife for not carrying her picture, nor sending one of him in his uniform. His note reads simply, quote, "Remember that if I fall, that it is in the cause of humanity that I am striking a blow for the welfare of the most abused and despised race on the face of the earth. That in the solution of this draft rests the question of our elevation or our degradation, our happiness or our misery. Would you prefer that I stay away from such a conflict?" End quote. Henry tells me she'd never seen him as a soldier in uniform. I can see the approach to the fort, a small strip of beach, 50, maybe 60 yards wide, with the wicked Atlantic to the east, and Vincent's Marsh to the west. We have a 250-yard march to the south face of Fort Wagner, which the scouts say is surrounded by a shallow moat set with sharpened palmetto logs and planks with spikes positioned beneath the water. This is the same water as Fort Sumter and the first shot of the war so long ago. At first, we were just walking, but within 150 yards of the fort, Taliaferro yells, "Fire!" as he crested the flaming parapet. Shaw waved his sword, shouted, "Forward 54th," and then pitched headlong into the sand. The weight of the war hung heavily upon us, but we knew what we were fighting for. We were fighting for something bigger than ourselves. We were fighting for generations to come, and for a world of freedom that is not determined by the color of one's skin. As we marched into battle, the beaches felt endless, and the sand between our boots were pulling us down. Nearing the fort, I could see the faces of Confederate soldiers across the battlefield, their expressions reflecting desperation as they sought to preserve the hateful institution of slavery. The air was thick, the stench of gunpowder and blood, cannons illuminating the fort in the dusk sky. The losses were substantial, but we pressed forward inch by inch through the relentless hail of enemy fire. As we reached the fort, we knew that night we made history. We showed that a black man was capable of fighting and laying down their lives for the cause of freedom. Even though the battle was not won, our actions showed our bravery and our loyalty to our country.
In the early 1800s, the Industrial Revolution was beginning within Lowell, Massachusetts. A mill opened. The owners of this mill, looking for cheap workers, turned to young, unmarried women. The women at the Lowell mills were actually very diverse, but looking to find an opportunity to make a life for themselves. Eventually, the owners took advantage of these women workers, giving them long hours and shorter pay. The working environment were bad as well.
Entering the mills for the first time, I was so excited. I had a special opportunity to work and make a wage for myself. The clattering of looms filled the halls, accompanied by the rhythmic whir of spinning wheels. The air smelled damp of fibers and machinery oil, a distinct aroma that became both familiar and oppressive over time. There were so many other girls my age, and even older alongside me. There was a certain sense of camaraderie that gave me purpose. Although we were cramped inside our rooms, specifically 6 to a room with only 3 beds, the boarding mothers made us feel welcome and comfortable, even in an uncomfortable environment. As the time went on, excitement about working dropped. Working about 73 hours a week, 10 to 12 hours in a day, left us physically and mentally drained. The mill owners had bells that would ring at specific times. Everyone hated the bells. One would ring at 4:30 a.m. for breakfast, another at 5:30 for breakfast to be over. A third bell would ring us to send us to work. After about 6 extremely loud bells, everyone's head would hurt. Eventually, the owners took even more advantage of us. They cut our already low wages even lower, as low as 24 cents of the $2 a week we were promised. Rumors made their way around the factory as we worked. Tired of the treatment from the owners, everyone wanted to make a stand. October 1836, wages were officially cut down for everyone. The indignation we felt was enormous. At that point, en masse, strikes were ignited. The first public speech by a woman was given. This event caused surprise and major consideration among her audience. After a leap of faith, with women taking a stand, everyone was on board. Hundreds on hundreds of women stood side by side throughout the streets for change.
The Lowell Mill Girls in the 54th Massachusetts Regiment were two separate groups that came together in the middle of the 19th century with a common dedication to issues bigger than themselves. The Lowell Mill Girls were young women who worked in the textile mills in Lowell, Massachusetts. They fought for better pay and working conditions, but they also believed that by banding together, they could change the face of labor for future generations. These ladies personified the idea of working together for a greater good. Black American troops in the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry Regiment joined the struggle for freedom, equality, and the elimination of slavery at the same time during the Civil War. These troops, under the command of Colonel Robert Goldshaw, realized they were part of a historical conflict that went beyond their own personal struggles. The 54th Massachusetts Regiment and the Lowell Mill Girls were similar in that they both had a strong dedication to goals greater than themselves.